Today, Nvidia officially announced 3 new GPUs. They admit they can't even do 1080p, AMD's next card specs get confirmed, and AMD's GPU can beat the 4090. Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. First up for today, Nvidia officially announced 3 new RTX 40 GPUs, including performance, pricing, all that good stuff. And the leaks were spot on. But before I get to that, as PC enthusiasts, we love being able to tweak things to get them exactly how we like it. And now you can extend that control to your browser with today's sponsor, Opera GX. The only browser that was built with us in mind. Because just like our PCs, Opera GX gives you complete control. Like they're wildly customizable themes that you can change around to your likings. I'm of course loving the light blue theme on my setup. Then they have these sweet animated wallpapers that add a certain flair I haven't seen before. But my favorite feature has got to be their resource control. Here you can see what tabs are taking up the most resources, and you can actually limit how much CPU and memory usage the browser takes up, so you know you have enough for other tasks. Oh, and get this, they offer mods. You go right here, then click this for the store to get anything from new themes to adding shaders and more, like this Doom mod that even has the sounds from the game. And don't worry, because switching is easy. Just use their import tool to quickly move everything over. So don't wait any longer and download Opera GX by visiting the link in the description below. Anyway, like I said, Nvidia announced 3 new GPUs. The RTX 4060, 4060 Ti with 8GB, and 4060 Ti with 16GB of VRAM. As far as specs, the 4060 Ti comes with 4,352 cores, so literally over 500 cores less than the 3060 Ti. It does get higher clocks at 2.54 GHz boost, but I'll get to performance and all in just a few. The 8 and 16GB models look to be identical in every way other than the VRAM, so no extra cores or anything like that, and both come with a 128-bit bus. Finally, the 8GB model has a TDP of 160 watts, with the 16GB model coming in at 165 watts. Moving on to the 4060, it comes with 3072 CUDA cores, which is once again a downgrade over the last gen 3060, though it comes with boost clocks up to 2.46 GHz. It comes with 8GB of VRAM across a 128-bit bus and a TDP of 115 watts. Moving on to performance, here's where things get really sad really fast. Right here you can see that according to Nvidia themselves, the 4060 Ti gets a 70% increase over the 3060 Ti on average, but only with DLSS 3 frame generation. No frame generation is a measly 15% performance increase, which is exactly what we saw in a recent benchmark in my last video. Compare that to the 4070, where Nvidia claimed a 30% increase over the 3070. So Nvidia is almost entirely relying on DLSS 3 for performance here. And when it comes to gaming performance, we can see here that the 4060 Ti does well with frame generation, but not so much without. And that's the same for the 16GB model as well. When we move to the 4060, Nvidia claims a 20% performance increase over the 3060, so slightly better, but I'm curious if these numbers get even worse in non-ray trace games. I guess we shall see. Finally, when it comes to price and release, we actually have some good news. Nvidia's 8GB 4060 Ti is set for release on May 24th for $399, so the same price as last gen. The 16GB model is coming in July for $100 more, and the 4060 non-Ti is also coming in July for $299, which is actually a price drop over the 3060. At the end of the day though, this barely feels like a refresh, much less a new generation. Nvidia is almost entirely relying on DLSS 3 here, and personally, I think it's just pathetic. Next up for today, while still on the topic of Nvidia's new GPUs, there's one thing the company did that really says a lot. When we compare the benchmarks of the 8GB RTX 4060 Ti with the 16GB model, there's one big difference you may not have noticed. At the bottom of their 16GB variant, it says that everything was done at 1080p max settings. But when we move over to the 8GB model, it says that it uses 1080p max settings and all except A Plague Tale Requiem and the Resident Evil 4 remake which use lower settings. Basically, Nvidia is confirming that even their newest $400 4060 Ti can't run all 1080p games at max settings. And given the only real difference is VRAM, 8GB just flat won't cut it anymore. Of course, AMD's RX 7600 is also rumored to come with just 8GB of VRAM, but that's more made to go against the 4060 non-Ti. The fact that a $400 card can't play every game at max 1080p settings is kind of sad, and given the stark contrast in the two slides, it's pretty clear that Nvidia knows it themselves. Next up, AMD's upcoming RX 7600 specs have been confirmed. In a new report from Video Cards, they shared an image of the card on GPU-Z, which gives us pretty much everything. Starting things off, according to this, it comes with 32 CUs, or 2048 cores, a base clock of 1720 MHz, a gain clock of 2250, and a boost of 2655. When it comes to memory, it looks like it does in fact come with 8GB of GDDR6 across a 128-bit bus. All in all, I will say that the 7600 doesn't look all that great when compared to AMD's last-gen lineup. As you can see, the 7600 has a few more cores when compared to the 6600, as well as slightly higher clocks. Really, it's not all that impressive, but remember that the 7900 XT barely had more cores, yet it was quite a bit faster. I guess the question ultimately boils down to price. And lastly for today, it looks like AMD can actually compete with Nvidia's RTX 4090. In fact, their already released RX 7900 XTX recently did just that, and it didn't use liquid nitrogen or any kind of wild cooling like that. It simply uses a DIY liquid cooler. The story comes from the overclocker Jedi95, who shared his findings on Reddit, and it was later reported by Tech PowerUp. Basically, what he did was attach an Elmore Labs module to Asus's tough 7900 XTX so he could remove the volt and power limitations of the card. This actually allowed him to get a very impressive peak GPU clock of 3.46 GHz and an average clock of 3.33 GHz. With all of that, he was able to get a time spy score of 38,725, which actually beats the average score of the RTX 4090. In Time Spy Extreme, it's essentially the same, though it is slower in Port Royal and Speedway. Regardless, this literally shows that AMD's GPU can actually trade blows with Nvidia's RTX 4090. With that said, according to the post, the GPU consumes a whopping 700 watts peak, so it clearly isn't going to win any efficiency awards. What's really interesting about this is that it could give AMD the opportunity to offer a much more powerful GPU for far less than Nvidia is offering. Fingers crossed. So while that does it for today, what do you think about all these mid-range GPUs? Are you disappointed, or are you just ready for something cheaper? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to check out Opera GX for free down in the description below. And as always, have a great day.